Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closures.io, where we explore the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Milan Kohut, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced, the lessons learned, and the strategies fueling future growth. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Kate Lalak, the founder and principal consultant of the Engine Room, where she draws on more than 24 years of experience as a business leader, consultant, and coach across corporate and entrepreneurial settings. Through her consultancy, Kate works with ambitious organizations to drive growth by strengthening sales strategies, fostering confident leaders, and building internal capability. With that being said, Kate, let me officially welcome you to Founders Future.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here.
We're excited to have you, Kate. Let's dive into the conversation. What I love to do with all of my guests is take it back in time. Before you even had your practice, your company, what were you doing before? And then eventually, what was the motivation for starting the business?
Okay, so I did a Bachelor of Business at uni and actually started in marketing, and then started moving into sales roles after a couple of years. I sort of got a taste of what sales was like and realized that's where the action was. That's where the fun was had in a company. And I should have had a clue because a lot of the casual jobs I had when I was at uni were like retail jobs. And I actually genuinely loved them. I just found it was such an easy way to go to work. But I think from the very beginning, I had this philosophy around sales, which was just about problem solving. So it's sort of in its simplest form. So I spent 17 years in the corporate world, in a range of marketing and sales roles, a lot of sponsorship, big sponsorship roles, and then moved into leadership roles. And then it was 8 years ago I started my consulting business, and I still say it's the best thing I've ever done. Hardest thing I've ever done, but best thing I've ever done.
Yeah, I mean, I was just having a conversation yesterday how like there's a ton of people who can relate to what you just said, but once
Yeah.
they really get into the corporate world, they never leave, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not
And I
easy
think I've
though.
been lucky having that balance, but and especially now with the clients that I work with, a lot of my clients are corporate clients. So being able to say I've worked in the corporate world, I understand the processes, the politics, the way that it operates. And now I can put that lens over what I'm doing in my consulting work. But also I've got two small businesses now myself. So a lot of the other people I'm working with are small business owners. They've got very different challenges. You know, you used to have all these resources in the corporate world, someone from IT, someone from accounting, someone paid the bills for the electricity. It's all you. When it's your
Hmm.
business, you're doing the lot. So if you
Yep.
can't work out why your computer's not working one day, start Googling. So, you know, you've got to work it out for yourself now. So things really shift, but I think that's the challenge that people love about starting their own business. It gets you to start thinking in a way that you didn't necessarily have to do when you're in corporate.
100%. And it's a beautiful journey though. You never stop learning. There's always going to
Yes.
be something new that you need to overcome or learn.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, Kate, we're going to dive deeper, as a matter of fact, into what you just mentioned. Let's talk about where this journey got you and more specifically what the business looks like today. In this part, we're really trying to get a better understanding of who it is that you're looking to help in the first place, what is the core offering that you have in place for your clients, and also what does the process look like, right? So just go ahead and tell us exactly who do you help and then what do you help them with?
Okay. So the main observation that I have is a lot of people hate sales. And they don't necessarily know why they hate it. They just hate sales. And so many of the people I work with are business owners and small to medium businesses. And I say to them, if you don't get your head around sales, if you don't start learning how to love it and embrace it, you will never grow because your network is this big and you can only get so much business from your existing network and referrals and testimonials and things like that. At some point, you have to start selling and you need to start talking to strangers. And that's what people need to get their head around. So people get caught up in this idea that it's about haggling and trying to make people buy something that they don't want to buy. And I always say, you can be the best salesperson in the world. You can't make someone buy something that they don't want. So that's sort of the primary reason. I mean, the two arms of the engine room are sales training and leadership training. But about probably 85% of the work we do is sales because that is where the demand is. That is what people are looking for. And there's a misunderstanding that people think that sales training is for juniors. or people that are really new to sales. Almost no one I work with is new to sales. I work with really experienced sales teams, and often what it is, they just need that fresh perspective, a
Mhm.
slightly different view. There's a lot of sensitivity going into a room to deliver a workshop to really experienced salespeople in an industry I've never worked in before. So you need to earn their respect very quickly for them to even listen to you and to take part in this workshop and be actively engaged, for everyone to get something from it. And for me, that first 5 to 10 minutes of how you explain what you're there to do and why you're there is what sort of is the make or break of the impact of that workshop. So getting people to understand that my goal is to try to shift the dial 5 to 10%. That's what I say. If I can just give you a couple of techniques that I've learned over 25 years that actually work, and work for a lot of people, that I talk to, that I've worked with, that I've consulted, companies that I've done it for, and you can adopt that into your current style. I'm not giving you a new sales strategy. I'm giving you a couple of tweaks, some new questions that you might ask, some new techniques to help you close, some methods with objection handling, things like that. And if
Mm.
every person in that workshop turns the dial 5 to 10%, the compound impact across that business is enormous. So that's really what it's about. And it's delivering it in lots of different styles. So everything from keynotes to workshops, one-to-one coaching. That's probably the thing that's changed the most over the 8-year journey is the method that I'm using. And the core topics haven't changed, but how you position them, who you're positioning them to, what industries I've worked with, the size of the businesses. I'm constantly testing and trying different things to see where I wanted to land. And to be honest, where I've landed really in the last 12 months is probably the happiest I've been. And probably not a coincidence, the most successful the business has been as well. So I think that's when you kind of work out you're in the right spot when you can do that. But much like everyone that I'm working with, I'm selling every day. I'm selling my services, I'm selling the business. So it's very practical what I'm teaching to people as well. It's not like, oh, I learned how to sell 15 years ago and now I'm coming in doing workshops trying to teach you an old philosophy. The world changes every day, the economy changes. You've got to adapt to that in your selling style and the messages you use, how you
Mhm.
connect with people. AI is a huge part of it now. Like you've really got to make sure you're adapting. But the core of it in terms of selling never changes. Connecting with people, your value proposition, articulating what that value proposition is, having a strategy, having a method that you use, none of that's ever changed. So that's sort of the bit that people have to remember. Keep the core stuff, but actually tweak some of the stuff around it.
Absolutely. I was about to clarify whether you want to focus more on the leadership side of business or the sales side of business, but listening to
Yeah.
how passionate you are about
Yeah.
sales, I would assume
Yeah.
that you're quite all right with the ratio of 80 to 20%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I am actually. I do love the leadership stuff. A lot of it,
Mhm.
people interestingly now are getting me to come in and saying we need a sales and leadership workshop. And really, my angle on that is around high performing teams, which
Mhm.
sits across the two. And it's really how to get the best out of your team. And I think leadership has changed in terms of, it's not about directing your team what to do. A lot of teams are remote. People are coming in and out of offices. Like things have changed in terms of how teams are working together. So I think you need to adapt to those changes as well in terms of what works best for your team. But really,
Yeah.
there's still that sales lens because for me, every single person in the organization impacts sales in the business. Whether you're directly taking an order, that's typically the sales team, but everyone from the person in finance that's speaking with the client when they're doing invoicing and things impacts the brand, impacts someone's view on your business and whether they want to keep, they'd be like, yeah, we had a great workshop, but oh my goodness, the payment process was such a long and it was so tedious. They were so difficult to work with. The accounts person was so rude. I actually don't want to work with them again. And for that reason, you could end up losing a customer. So everyone from the person that answers the phone that could be sitting on reception right through the business. And that's the other thing with a lot of companies. I'm now doing staff conferences where I'm there talking about sales, but I'm sort of tweaking the messaging so I don't lose people. And there's one question I start every workshop with now that catches people off guard, but it's like the simplest way to explain sales and get people on board. And often I introduce myself, start doing the workshop, and I say, just before we start, I want to ask you one question. I don't know what to do for dinner tonight, and I was wondering if anyone could help me. And people sort of, that's what is she talking about? Has she just lost her mind? Has she suddenly gone off track? Is she not on script? And I get two reactions. I either get people start giving me suggestions. I've had everything from download the McDonald's app to ask ChatGPT to make chicken tacos to do whatever. And then other people start asking me questions. What do you feel like? Do you like to cook? How many of you are there? How much time have you got? And I say to people, you are selling. This is problem solving. Some of you are jumping straight to giving me a solution. The chances of you nailing that solution are very slim. If you start asking me questions, you're going to very quickly distill some answers, and chances are the suggestion you then make, I'm more than likely to pick up on if you ask me the right questions. So I'm like, did anyone enjoy helping me work out my dinner problem? People are like, yeah. And I was like, that's sales. That's all you're doing. Asking questions and helping solve someone's problem. And people are
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm comfortable with that. I'm fine with that. And I'm like, that's all you're doing. The challenge at the end of it is you're asking for money. That's the only difference with sales. So,
This is actually a great example for people like how to think about first having that childlike curiosity
yeah,
that you really need to have in sales, and also what is the importance of probing questions, right?
yeah.
So that's a great idea, though. Good for you.
Yeah, and I say it's human nature to want to solve problems for people. That's why
Mhm.
people jump straight into solutions. And I've had the most inexperienced salespeople, then their instinct is to start asking me questions. And I say to them, I don't know why you keep telling me you don't think you'd be good at sales. You just did exactly what 50% of experienced salespeople have never done. They started trying to solve my problem. You started asking me questions. That's the mindset. Stop overcomplicating and thinking it needs to be harder than that. You ask the right questions, you create that connection with someone, and then they open up and give you information, and then you start to work through it and find a solution for them at the end of it. So
Yeah.
it's the objection handling and the closing is where people tend to get caught out in sales. They're the sticky bits where you start getting some resistance and people don't know what to do. So that's the skill set that you really need to nail, I think. And then you've got sort of a really good, complete sort of sales process that you can apply to pretty much anything.
Yeah, you just dropped some real value in the last couple of minutes. So everybody, I just hope you're listening carefully. But
Yeah.
also, Kate, let's talk a little bit about the back end side of the business. Obviously, um, it seems like the impact that you have on your clients and these companies and those teams that you work with, that's the number one priority, of course. But at the end of the day, you're a business owner yourself. So you got to think about what are you going to do from the sales and marketing perspective to make this something bigger, to grow and
Yeah.
scale. So my question is, what are you currently doing from like on the marketing slash lead generation standpoint to bring people and companies into the program and have that bigger impact?
Yeah. So this year really was that bit of a turning point for me in terms of starting to invest some money into lead generation and starting to bring stuff in. But I'm also finding that lot of sort of like the fruits of my labor from the last couple of years, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, the networking I've been doing, I do still talk at a lot of events. Thursday night, I'm speaking on a panel for women in tech sales specifically. I guarantee I'll get some clients that'll come out of doing something like that. I've spoken in a lot of keynotes at big industry events where you've got 200 companies in the room, and inevitably people contact you, and next thing you've got 3 or 4 converted leads. And really, those keynotes, I'm getting paid to do them, but it's basically like I'm getting up and pitching my business in a 1 hour sales conversation where I'm teaching people my sales philosophy, and then they ring me and they're like, can you come in and do that specifically for my company? So they're great opportunities. I found doing those big industry events and keynotes. I love them. And it's fun going to someone's conference. They're often in great destinations where people sort of bring all their staff in. So those have been really fruitful for me this year, but I have had a really good think over the last month or so, and I continue to do into the break about how I'm going to scale next year because I'm getting very close to my capacity in terms of what I can do as one person. I've got a couple of facilitators that I've got to give other topics to that are not my core skill set that I offer to clients, but I tend to find 95% of people are wanting me to come in. It's that sales skill set. And the big point of difference that I've got is everything is personalized and tailored. Now that's getting me a lot of business because so many people are like, there's all these cookie cutter sales training courses, but nothing is niche for my business. So I spend weeks um, researching the industry in researching the team, the company. They send me documents. I've had people send me P&Ls to assess before I go in. So when I deliver that workshop, I'm speaking the language that team understands. I'm using examples that are relevant to their industry, but there's so much work that goes into that. So I'm almost my own worst enemy because there's only so much. I need that time to do that research because it's getting me the results that I need. So for next year, really, it's about looking for some admin support. And I have to stop trying to be a control freak in terms of thinking that people won't do it to the level that I want to do or the level of research. It's about training people correctly and getting people on board and getting them to understand my methods and how I do things. So that will be one in terms of getting some admin support. Definitely doing more marketing and sales lead generation next year is something, but then finding that balance of the facilitators that can actually then deliver the content the way that I do so that it's not all on me. And then the other thing that I really want to do is some online tools. So if someone can't necessarily afford to bring me in live to do a workshop, even if it's an online workshop, there are some tools that they can download and use with their team that are going to help guide them through the process themselves. And often that's a really good way to do it. So I've started pulling some of those together. So I would say my biggest issue at the moment is time in terms of just resourcing, basically. I'm delivering, normally it's quieter at this time of year, but there's still so many people going, let's squeeze in one more workshop before the end of the year. So I'm not going to say no
Yeah.
to that. So, it's that balance of like at some point you've sort of got to say no so you can spend some time planning to actually move yourself ahead next year.
Absolutely. I'm also very curious, and maybe this is a good idea to discuss this deeper. But when it comes to the amount of experience that you have at this point within the business, it seems like you've been so far only focused towards the B2B side of things and really working with the teams and companies as a whole. But also, I feel like there is an opportunity for you to maybe lean into the B2C side of things, where you can basically work with solopreneurs, more entrepreneurs, founders, and that might help with the scalability though. So I'm curious, what is your perspective on that?
I've actually worked with a lot of founders and solopreneurs and small business owners. The challenge for a lot of them is budget, if I'm honest with you. And it's got to a point where I have people reach out to me and want to work with me, but they're like, I've only got this amount of budget. And I'm like, well, that's like going to a car dealership and saying, not to say that I'm a Mercedes Benz, but basically coming in and saying, I've got a Mercedes, I want to buy a Mercedes, but I've got a Toyota budget. Like you've got to be realistic in terms of who you're getting. And for me, I've spent 25 years getting to the point that I have. So there is work that I do. There are events that I go and speak at where I speak for free. A lot of things where there are, particularly if it's got small business owners, I tend to do a lot of stuff where people reach out, I'll agree to do stuff with them. I have done some industry events that I haven't been paid for. And it's literally giving free advice to people. And then normally there's a queue of people waiting afterwards to come and ask me questions. And I think they're the smart people. They're going to come and hit me up and ask me a question because they've got access to me at that event to ask stuff as well. So they're just smart and they're sort of, and I've got the time. I always allow sort of an hour afterwards just to mingle with people. So I do try to find that balance, but
Mhm.
I'm also at a point where I'm like, this is my heyday in terms of, capitalizing on what I'm doing. And I had a couple of really rough years in the business a couple of years ago where I really had to reset my model and what I was doing and looking at how things were. And I skated awfully close to the ground during that time. So it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows for 8 years by any means. So I think going on that journey also makes you very realistic. It's probably why I agree to do stuff for free as well to help people because I was like, I know
Mhm.
what this is like. And sometimes you just need that conversation or that half an hour with someone. So that's kind of the balance for me. And it's really about finding people that are going to commit to something as well. So if a founder does reach out to me, I'm like, what are you actually wanting to do? If you want to do one-off session with me for, 2 hours, we're probably not going to get that cut through. We've got to delve into what the issue is. We've got to work through it. There's some tips I can give you. So it's not a no, but it's probably less where I'm focused at the moment, but still very open to it as well.
Definitely. I do have a couple of ideas that I'm definitely going to give you a couple of tips, but maybe that's a conversation after the podcast. But
Sure.
what I wanted to touch on though, you talking about you basically getting out of your own way when it comes to controlling everything. And a
Yeah.
big part of what's going to come next for your company is delegation, building out
Yeah.
those teams. So what I'm curious about is, are you planning on getting more people when it comes to the fulfillment? and your ability to follow up on your promises, or is it also going to be relevant to whatever is happening on the marketing front, the sales team? What is the vision there?
Yeah. So my number one mantra that I've had for 8 years is no staff. And I will continue to try to do that for as long as I can because the simplicity that comes with that is amazing. My partner has about 35 staff in his business. And I would say pretty much every night at dinner, he says to me, I'm just so jealous of the simplicity of your business model. And there is a simplicity. And I've got two mentors, and one of them said to me when I left corporate and went out into my own business, he said to me, whatever you can do, try to have no employees. So that doesn't mean not having contractors. And in terms of having facilitators, most of the facilitators I've got on board at the moment all have their own businesses as well.
Hmm.
So it's just giving them additional work. And likewise, some of them have come to me and said, I'm working with a client that needs your skill set. Can you come in and do a couple of workshops for them? So that model is very simple for me. You don't have that ongoing connection with someone in terms of them living and breathing your brand, but I'm not at the point that I need that yet. So I may
Hmm.
end up changing that model in a couple of years. But for me at the moment, not having to do staff meetings and reviews and performance management, all the things that I did in corporate, actually I love, to be honest. And like I said, it just keeps things simple in terms of my business model. So for me next year, it's really looking at contractors or agencies that I can use. So I'm tapping into their skill sets, but I'm not actually bringing them in-house full time. That will be my goal.
Yeah, Kate, I really have to say I appreciate you keeping it real. Talking
Yeah.
about the good but the bad stuff as well, because obviously
Yeah.
this is a part of the journey though, right? Like you said yourself, it's not going to be always sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
But it's also beautiful that this is a part of the journey. Can you imagine how boring it would get if you didn't really have to, figure anything out and everything would be just perfect?
I
That
know.
would be.
One of the things that one of the reasons I left corporate was I said that I hadn't learned anything for a couple of years. I felt like the
Mhm.
last couple of years in corporate, I was teaching stuff, or I had some really capable staff, particularly in my last job that were in my team. The marketing manager I had was amazing. She just basically took that part of the marketing remit and ran with it so I could focus on sponsorship. But I wasn't really learning anything. Like I was executing work, I was executing sponsorship deals. The day I started my own business, my learning curve went it was an uphill climb from day one. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I've never been more excited about that. So in terms of going through those steps, and I look back now and think, God, I wasted a lot of money in the early days, and I wish I didn't do that, and I wish I didn't do that. But my view in life is don't have regrets. There are certainly things in life that I wish maybe had gone differently, but regretting them is
Mhm.
actually just a waste of time. And I always say I made the best decision that I could at the time with the information that I had. So all
Yeah.
I say out of it is I look back and just go, just don't do it that way again. Just learn from it,
Yeah.
in terms of actually use that information to make better decisions going forward. But it is, I think, the freedom that comes with it. I think people think the freedom is, oh, you can, do what you want. You don't have a boss and all of that sort of stuff. But it's the flexibility to go and, you know, take a day off when you feel like it and not feel guilty about it, or whatever you need to do, you can balance things at the way that you need to. And I've got way more work-life balance now than I ever had when I lived in corporate.
Yeah.
So in
I
terms of
believe
it
that,
for
yeah.
me, yeah, I'm more relaxed. Everyone says to me, when I see you, just seem to be happy all the time. You're relaxed. I genuinely love what I do every single day. I don't have that feeling on a Sunday night where I'm like, oh, work tomorrow. I'm just like, bring it on. Like, who even knows what's going to happen tomorrow? I've got a rough plan for the day, but anyone could call me, anything could pop up. I'll be writing a workshop or delivering one or speaking to someone or whatever it is, traveling. I do a lot of travel in terms of delivering the content. So, it's a really lovely balance and mix of stuff now. So
Yeah, it's a good position to be in,
it
100%.
is.
And it's
Yes.
also funny because a part of what you said is an advice that I feel like at this point it became really like a cliche. When it comes to like you cannot really do the same actions and expect a different outcome,
Yeah.
right? But it really is as simple as that. So even
Yeah.
with those failures, like as long as you can see it as a learning lesson, you're
Yeah.
good. You're
Yeah,
good.
I agree.
So.
Yeah. And I think it's about testing out different things as well. Like my
Mhm.
advice for founders really comes down to, and it's something that I've worked out over my journey, is you need to know what your lane is. So,
Mhm.
you need to be solving a problem. If your business isn't solving a problem, then you are going to be pushing it uphill from day one because you're going to be convincing people that they need your service. They're not actually looking for you as a solution to anything. Now, when you're solving that problem, there might be lots of other people out there already solving that problem as well. So then what you have to work out is how are you solving it differently? Why would someone pick you over someone else? And it's amazing how many people I work with. The first thing I do with a lot of people is, what's your value proposition? Not what are your values, not what do you stand for, but what's actually the value proposition of your products and services. So, what are you actually doing? What are you solving? What makes you different?
Mhm.
What's that combination of things that actually make someone pick you over someone else? And can you articulate it? And then can the rest of your team articulate it? Because so often it stops at the founder. So that's the kind of stuff that you start with. And that's what you need to keep sort of tweaking. So I sort of started a bit too niche, then I came out a bit too wide, and now I've sort of like Goldilocks. I finally landed in the right bed and worked out where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
But that's part of the journey as well. I think testing those different things as you go and working out things that are, and different styles. Like, I had someone say to me, do you want to write a book? Do you want to do podcasts? Do you want to write content? Do you want to do blogs? Do you want to deliver workshops? And I was like, oh, some of those I know definitely I want to do. Some of those I definitely don't want to do. And it's funny, some of the things I thought I definitely didn't want to do, I've done and really enjoyed. So I think that's part of being open-minded as well in terms of this might be the style of what your business is, but how it plays out, you need to be really open-minded to as well. So it's part of the fun.
It
So
is though. It is. You're always going to end up looking for the sweet spot, no matter what it is
yeah,
that you're trying to figure out. So 100%
yeah,
agreed.
yeah,
Kate, I before we wrap it up, I also want to basically capitalize on the level of transparency that you brought to this episode.
yeah,
So if you
yeah.
would allow me, but
It's what I'm
talking
known
about
for.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So let me take advantage.
Yeah.
No, but you're talking about problems and issues. Obviously, this is inevitable when it comes to growing and scaling. So I'm just really curious, when you think about the next 12 months and really growing and scaling and pushing this further, out of everything that we talked about, what would you say is going to become like the biggest constraints or the biggest challenges to really make it happen?
I would say resources is going to be my two biggest issues, time and money. So actually getting that balance right in terms of what I'm going to invest money into. And, there's that sort of nervousness as well in terms of going, do I spend on this first? It's a bit chicken and the egg. Do I need to build up the admin, get that sales and marketing machine moving with some newer leads coming through that are different to where I've been generating them from this year? And then once that capacity comes in, then I start getting more staff to help me with the execution? Or do I need those people on board first? And then I can understand what their skill sets are, what their lanes are, what are the new topics that they're bringing in that I can then be offering, and then use that information in the sales and marketing content to help me drive those new leads. So, it's working out that balance. And it's something I actually worked agency side a couple of times when I was in corporate. And it was always that challenge when you're pitching for new business. Do you need the staff first and then you pitch and get the business and you got people to execute it? Or do you need to win the business first and then find the resources? So,
Mhm.
it's an age-old game that you've got to play.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's that balance that I need to do. And if I'm going to spend my budget wisely, where am I investing in it first and what's the best way to move ahead with it? So that's the plan that I've been working on for the last month or so going into 26, what that looks like, how I'm going to invest. But time and money would be the two biggest constraints. If they were both endless, I could solve the problem like that, but they're not. So
Yeah.
it's finding that balance will be the trick.
Yeah. Well, Kate, again, thank you for being so honest about everything. I really enjoyed the conversation. At this point, I would say this wraps up another insightful episode of Founders Future. So, just again, thank you for taking the time sharing the story with me and the listeners. And if anybody wanted to reach out to you, maybe even work with you one day, what is the best way
Yep.
to go about that?
Yep. So you can jump to our website, www.engine-room.com.au, or find me on LinkedIn. That's probably easy. I'm on LinkedIn every day. So that's usually a good way to get in touch with me directly.
And it's just Kate Lalak on LinkedIn, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
That's right.
awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Now, to our listeners, if today's conversation inspired you as well, make sure to subscribe to Founders Future on your favorite platform. And also, if you're a business owner, more specifically a consultant or coach, or you own an agency and you're trying to scale your business and really enhance both your sales and marketing efforts, also visit closers.io get in touch with our team, and discover how exactly we scaled our company from 0 to over 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on crushing it, and I'll see you on the next one.